What's up, boys? Today we have another interview coming your way in where we interviewed Azzap. He's a multi-season, multi-region challenger Vel'Koz player that's normally revered as the #1 Vel'Koz in the world. Normally, when I get someone on the phone for an interview, I'll post the analysis video and then at a later date follow up with that interview. But this time I want to do it a bit different. I'm going to release the interview this week, and then next week is when Azzap's full analysis video will come out like you're used to seeing. As always, don't forget to zap that like button if you enjoyed this interview, and make sure to subscribe too so you don't miss when that tutorial video comes out. So without further ado, let's hop in and talk to the octopus aficionado, the tutelage of Tentacle, the Squid Squad leader himself, Azzap. How you doing so far today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful.
I saw you survived an earthquake yesterday. Is
Oh
everyone
yeah,
okay?
that was just absolutely wild. That was
Nice.
super wild for some reason. Like we don't get them. That was like I think it was just one of the heaviest earthquakes I've heard in like my entire life.
It's terrifying. I live in Arizona in the States, and we don't get anything here besides like over 100-degree weather. We don't get like snow, rain, earthquakes, nothing like that. So it's always crazy to see.
Oh, so you guys are just chilling.
Yeah, it's just fucking hot over here all the time. It's already around like 95 degrees out over here, which is somewhere around like 30 Celsius if we use the not American metric system. So
Nice. Glad you translate that.
yeah, I got you. Don't worry. I have a lot of Canadian friends, so they're always like, I don't know what the hell you're saying.
Oh yeah, Canadians use the superior measurements.
Yeah, everyone does but America, right? But I was gonna start just asking some questions to you if you're ready for
Oh, I
me.
fixed it.
Oh,
Oh
we're good. We're
yes.
still
Okay.
troubleshooting. My bad.
No, it's good. Okay, I fixed it. Now it should be on the word recording. So if you guys are curious, like we were talking to nobody, this is BCawk. So we're
No
gonna
one
be talking
important.
about Vel'Koz. Yeah, good
Yeah, we're
stuff.
going to talk about Vel'Koz today. My plan is to do a big video on Azzap that hopefully will send him some more traffic, and then obviously maybe get some views itself on my channel. So if you
For
guys love
sure. I'll be sure
supports,
to send all my boys in there. Yeah.
that'd be dope. I was going to say, if you guys love supports, then obviously hop over to the YouTube channel. And hopefully today you'll learn some things that you don't know about Azzap. I definitely am going to learn a few things as well. I wanted to pick your brain on what everybody has been asking you the past couple of days, which is how do you feel about the new Vel'Koz buffs coming through?
Yeah, I really like the buffs. I think a lot of people underestimate the power of the buffs, and so many people are disappointed because, well, I mean, it's kind of understandable because they waited for their mains for like 8 years, and in the last 4 years we had literally nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And these were like the last four like worst 4 years in league. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
in terms
Agree.
of how the game is progressing. So Vel'Koz is getting worse and worse because everything else is getting much better and crazier. So
Yeah.
to him not being changed at all is kind of ridiculous because the last 2 seasons were absolutely terrible for Vel'Koz mains. It's just
Yeah.
horrible to climb.
I think like the
And
only thing they
yeah,
did the past couple of seasons was like add like a few more like attack damage per level or something like that. This is the actual first
oh,
like
that
buff.
was not even a buff. That was just it was like 0.01 per level, something like that. Like
Yeah,
I
ridiculous.
don't even know why they did it. I think they were just like shooting for even more like precision on pi. Like they went in like 3.14159 and stuff like that. So yeah, it was irrelevant. Season
Yeah.
8 was the last buff. But yeah, like to your question, this one will be pretty good, I think. I think the level 2 W will now be a possibility with early recall, so you get wave management much earlier, so you can level up Q earlier, which means you get kill potential earlier, and more damage on Q and W means in the long run, like even if your damage is ever so slightly increased, like if that extra damage puts you over the threshold of a kill, the snowball potential will be wild because you get the kill, then you have extra 400 gold, that's extra 20 AP, and that like snowballs. It's positive feedback loop at the end of the day.
I
So yeah.
notice on stream sometimes like you're always sometimes like 5 to 10 health off killing someone that will answer that as well, like you mentioned.
Indeed, yeah.
So
Yeah, can't wait for that.
what if being the Vel'Koz master yourself, Riot gave you the reins for let's say a day and they said, Azzap, how would you buff Vel'Koz? What would you tell them?
Ooh, I had a couple of ideas on that one before because I'm a fan of video game design, and I've made like two of my own video games in Unity just for like learning purposes, basically.
Hmm.
But I really love tackling problems like that, and I figured I wanted to because the issue for Velcus right now is too too many players fall into the same category. The champion itself pushes you towards 50% win rate. So a really bad Velcus will be like 48%, and a really good one will be 52% win rate. The
Hmm.
champion is just getting funneled to 50% due to its like stabilizing design. Because if you're terrible, you can't. There's only so much you can fuck up in a game. Because you're
Right.
never gonna like be dashing into enemies and suiciding. They have to get onto you, and then your team will punish them or something like that. Whereas when you're fed, you can't really do too much anyway because you can't reset, you can't execute kills very often. You can't like destroy an entire team fight unless enemies position like shit. So he funnels towards 50%. So my idea is that he's not a bad champion. He's not weak. Like in competitive, he actually has like major potential. We can talk about that later. And a lot
Mhm.
of big coaches agree. The thing is, you want to do is you want to separate. You want to create a distinction between worse and good players. So you want to do a version of a buff, which is also an adjustment that punishes bad players. So my ideas were like lower the damage of Q by 10%, but increase it up to 25 based on missing health and based on the range of the hit.
I
So
like that.
that's one cool idea because it's going to create more distinction between exactly the types I said. And yeah, like because bad players won't really utilize that or punish, but good ones will. And then you get execution mechanic for Soul Key, which is wildly good. And yeah, the champ could work, and he wouldn't break the competitive at the same time because you have to think about that. If you just flat out buff Vel'Koz quite a lot, he will break competitive and be S tier.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen him in a competitive game that I recall, honestly. So it would be nice for him to get a little bit of love in the competitive scene at some point.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It will happen after the buff, I imagine.
I was gonna say, I
I don't
also
know.
heard you on
Well,
stream the other day talking about maybe like switching up after he got his passive proc, like maybe making his abilities do something different. Is that something you think that would be worthwhile on
oh,
him?
that's something highly experimental because the champion is complex as it is. Probably one of the most difficult champions in the game to master. Maybe even the most difficult. The idea was based on with what ability you proc the true damage, which is the third stack, you would get different buffs. Like Q would be execution, W maybe movement speed, E would be root, and stuff like that. It's like the rise mechanic, which would make him like it would make you think even more. It would make it even more complex because you would have to figure out what combo is suited for that
Right, and that
scenario.
would put him in even in like a Aurelian soul hole almost, right, where everyone would be too baffled by how many different things he could do and probably just not play him
Yeah,
much at
yeah.
that point. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit here. We'll definitely get back to talking more about Vel'Koz in a second, but I want to hear about you. Someone was asking in chat just previously, but tell me your kind of League of Legends story. What did you play before League? How did you get started in League, et cetera, et cetera?
I started with friends usually. Like we played Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, stuff like that. And then well, what they've done brilliantly, Blizzard, they opened up custom maps, and we would just try to make or even play a bunch of like custom maps like Pudge Wars or whatever. And then Dota was a new thing. It was just a map you could download
Hmm.
in Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne. So we would play Dota a little bit in like this internet club. Yeah, we played and we got rather good at it and I really enjoyed it. But the issue was we played over Garena. If people don't know what it is, it's basically like a way to connect online with other people. You create a game, it's like a fake LAN basically. And
Okay.
people can come into your games that you create. So we would create games and then you would go in and it would be very tedious to find players to go in, but there was no punishment. Like you go in a game and it takes you too long to get like 5v5 and then you get the first blood and they rage quit. So you have to do the
Jeez.
process all over again. It was horrible. No ranking system, nothing. So because we got kind of good, it was very frustrating to deal with all that. You would just 9 out of 10 games, it would break people brain and they would just leave and you would never play a full game.
Just the worst version
So
of League of
yeah,
Legends.
so yeah, basically that was the inspiration for League. League kind of copycat that. And once League came out, a friend of mine told me like, "Yo, you should get this game. It has ranking system. Like it was legit." And yeah, naturally I switched to League because I'm a bit of a competitive person. I have kind of competitive personality. I like to get good at the stuff I do. And yeah, I just try to play. And I don't know. Season 2, I kind of learned the game, and I got high elo from in pre-season 3, I guess.
Wow. Yeah. You've been around. You're like a MOBA OG then. You were around when it was first created, basically.
Yeah,
How old
true.
are you, by the way?
26.
26. Okay. Thank God. I still haven't found someone who's older than me yet. I'm 28, so I feel like the grandpa of League of Legends over here. But everyone's always
It's not
18 or
easy,
20
honestly, in
or
this. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and you mentioned in season 2, preseason was like when you first started hitting like Challenger, it sounds like, correct?
Actually, well, in today's terms of what challenger is, it actually would be. Back in the day, there was no challenger. It was just diamond, like the utmost diamond, and then it was like ladder. It's just
Oh yeah. It
pure
used to
ladder, but
just
based on
be
the
Elo.
Yeah, but based on the numbers, you would be assigned like a random badge. Like, oh, now you're 1700. Oh, now you're platinum. Oh, you're 19 2000. Now you're diamond. Something like that. Yeah. In season 2, I was gold, and that's when Zeret came out, and I clicked with Zeret quite a lot. And I remember I had 42-19 ranked score in Zeret, which I didn't play too many games, but I that's the point where I understood the game kind. I started learning like how the game worked, the minions, the map, macro, wave management, and all that. I started watching a bit of competitive, and I definitely started learning. So in pre-season 3, I skyrocketed to like 2100, 2200 LP or ELO, which was basically about top 100, top 200 players on the server. So in today's terms, that would definitely be challenger.
Crazy. And then have you maintained challenger pretty much every season since that first one?
So after that, it was just challenger, but it was like top 50.
Mhm.
And you would go into like this dead hole of plus. It was notorious days of being in Diamond 1 and getting +3 LP per win and
Right.
losing -5. So that was just hell. It was absolute hell. And I had about 90 something LP on Diamond 1, which was just again, it would be like top 200 players kinda. But yeah, as soon as the challenger got kind of extended, I would get there. So
Awesome. And you mentioned that you would watch professional, but full disclosure, I've read your guide online. If you guys haven't checked out Azzap's guide, I'd definitely go suggest it. But it mentioned that you were also a previous professional player yourself. Did you play for a while or?
that was season 5, season 6. Yeah, I played for well a couple of teams. I remember the name Obscene Esports, and then I got to Exertus Esports, which was the biggest one. I think it exists to this day in like UK league. And yeah, we had fairly decent results. We were winning a lot of tournaments. That's when I started like getting some money from the tournaments, like having infinite RP and like buying all the skins, gifting people, and all that. And
Mhm.
then yeah, like you would win some tournaments here and there. So like you'd get money. Then I did some coaching on the side to try to finance myself. That kind of we lost our jungler if I remember correctly. So we just when we would try out find new people, someone else had to leave, and it was just too much hassle. I enrolled in university, and then I just quit and played for fun.
So that's when you really switched to doing mostly content creation at that point, is when life kind of took over, it sounds like.
That was just basically passion busting out because I was on university and I didn't have time to like do the professional grind like 12 hours a day and stuff like that. And I would like then I would get home and I'd be like bored. So I just started making stuff, recording stuff, editing stuff for fun.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
I
I was
just
gonna say,
eventually like got into something.
yeah, I was gonna say back in season 5, there weren't many opportunities in comparison to like today, right? To
Oh,
break
for sure,
into.
for sure. Yeah, it was just horrible to get your foot into the ranked and like into the ranked competitive scene. It was just absolutely horrible. You had to know so many people. It was like Skype connections. You would have to like phone Ocelot on his like home phone so you could like do stuff. It's just super wild.
Please, man, give me a chance. Like, I swear.
Yeah, exactly. Like you would have to like if nobody knew you, and I'm from like a not very connected country, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Like you can't have anyone to kind of help you get into the door, right? So you didn't like have too many people around you that can help you. Actually, pretty much none. So you would
Right.
basically just have to hit up people like, "Hey, cyanide, can we do that?" There was like a you would just like hit up random like people, coaches, and all that, and like try to get a tryout, and it would go from there.
Do you have any League of Legends goals past this point? Because it sounds like you've basically done it all. You have a successful stream. You went pro for a little while. You're been challenger for very long. Do you have anything that you're still working towards?
Not necessarily. Now it's more like streaming side. I want to build a good community. The goal before this was pretty much to. I talked about this in one of my Q and A's, like I don't know, 2017 maybe, which was I wanted to have my name become synonymous with Velkoz. That's what I wanted. That was kind of the goal. I wanted to like when you type in Velkoz on Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever, that my name would pop out. And yeah, I think we're like most prominent Velkoz player now. So I'm pretty sure like that happens. I had people like send me from all over the world like search results, and it's like me popping out.
It's kind of like to become
Yeah,
like the Bouse for Vel'Koz. It sounds like you want to become a huge streamer.
yeah. Back in the day, you would have people like Box, and it would be like, oh, the most known Riven and like Gosu, most known Vayne. So I just wanted to be like, okay, I'll be the Velkoz guy. That's it.
So making a good community, becoming the Vel'Koz guy. Do you feel like you have a pretty good community right now? I'm trying to bait
Oh
chat.
yeah, the best. Don't tell them that though. They'll get cocky.
Good answer, right, chat? Good answer. So you found Vel'Koz right when he came out, basically, and from that point on, were you
Yep.
pretty much a Vel'Koz main?
Yeah. I mean, I again because I play competitive, it would be banned always. So I'd play a bunch of other stuff. obviously. But he was my kind of pocket pick, like a Froggens and Nivea and stuff like that. From season 6, I kind of transitioned more into like, okay, now I'm just gonna be the best Vel'Koz I possibly can and spend more time doing that. And it was also because of the content creation. I noticed there was like a market gap for Vel'Koz online. I couldn't
Hmm.
find really good Vel'Koz content. There was like Spazzy at the time, but nothing like super high elo, nothing like extreme educational. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna fill in that market gap and like try to put myself in there.
My God, Spazzy. That's a throwback for sure.
Yeah.
But we're obviously talking mostly about Vel'Koz support today. The channel is mostly on support, so we'll be focusing on
Oh
that.
hell yeah, yeah.
Number one here. I wanted to ask you, why do you think Vel'Koz, if he does, because I know you feel like he's kind of weak at this moment, what do you think makes him special or better in the support role than others?
Support role. Well, I'll talk in relativistic sense. Support is all right because you get to impact the game a bit more because you have access to the AD carry support and very often the jungler at the same time. Plus, mid lane is at arm's length, so you want to roam.
Hmm.
So that's what makes Velka support work. Because mid lane you need to get to level 6, and only after then you kind of get to play the game. On support, you can break the game in very early, so you can put your impact early into the game. That's kind of the idea behind Velka support, and that's why it works.
Oh, good. I mean, you segued me perfectly into my next question, was just like, how do you play your early game as Vel'Koz support? It sounds like you're trying to roam a bunch, but is it difficult with someone who's immobile and not really meant for that?
Yeah, you have to get super creative with the roams because it's not like your Thresh. You're gonna do flash, death sentence, flay, whatever. You're not Nautilus. It's definitely you're more constrained as to where you can roam because very often you're just gonna get in the lane and like, oh, it's a Vladimir, you just get one shot. Oh, it's like Irelia, you just get one shot. So you
Mhm.
got to be very patient and clever. So it's just knowing where you can roam, where you can't, where you're bored. You do a lot of the semi roams, and like midway, you're just gonna turn back in the river. Okay, this is not gonna work. Let's go back. And yeah, it just takes a lot of knowledge in that sense to pull it off.
Gotcha. So it's mostly roaming a bunch. Are there any lanes where you're basically just staying put as much as possible, or any mid lane matchups where you're like, I'm not even going to try with that?
Well, yeah, like if it's a deadly matchup where your like laner has no setup whatsoever, they're like some selfish character that really can't set you up. It's kind of pointless to roam. So it's just about like picking and choosing what's your best opportunity to carry the game, and that's just obviously it's flawed, but you're just giving your best guess. Okay, I'm gonna focus here. I'm gonna focus there, and that's about it.
Do you find yourself typically becoming the hyper carry more often than your ADC these days in season 12?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
very
can't
often
trust any ADC
you're
players.
gonna take over. Yeah.
Well, then tell me about mid and late game then. Once a tower falls or once it starts getting past that 10-minute mark, really what's your objective as Vel'Koz support?
You want to fight?
That's it.
uh, yeah, your champ is extremely limited. You can't really side lane extremely well. You can't split push. You don't scale superbly. Like your late game won't be that good as well as mid. So
Mhm.
what you want to do is you want to break the game in mid game because that's your best spike. 1, 2 items like level 6 to 13. That's kind of where you operate. You want groups, you want team fights, you want dragon fights, you want baron fights, you want sieges. That's exactly what you want. But sometimes you can even avoid all of those by just getting picks and that
Mhm.
give you objectives. So good vision is key, so you can pick people off. Like ideal playstyles where you never have to team fight, because team fights involve your teammates and that's too random. So ideal, you just want to kill someone before the fight begins, so you just get the free objective. That's kind of the optimal case scenario. But if everyone plays well, then you just go for team fight and maximize your impact.
How do you find yourself kind of optimizing finding those picks? Is it really just having good vision and kind of like brush camping like you're a Blanc or?
It comes from, I guess, understanding what enemies want to do. You got to read the intentions. You got to look at the camps, what is up, what is not up. Warding enemy raptors is really good because you can do that. Cutting like really deep angles of the terrain, like trying invisible cues. And as long as you know they don't have a ward on the opposite side, you can do invisible cues through the wall. Common scenario is like you pink in a river brush and ward over the wall, and you're just like kind of fishing. It's solo queue. People are decoherent. They don't have synergy. Very often you get a pick. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's just how you break games very often.
And you mentioned kind of some of those power spikes were around like level 6 to 13. Like, where would you say you're strongest? Is it when you buy your first item? Do you feel good at fighting at any point as Vel'Koz?
Yeah, as soon as you get like your first mythic, you're pretty good. Second item, super good. Third item, if it's a decap, then it's like massive. And from then on, you kind of fall off. So you
Mhm.
you wanna do a lot during that period.
So really, would you say a game's like completely lost if it goes too far as Vel'Koz?
Nah, for sure. This is never completely lost because it's solo queue again. like one cheesy pick and you're back on track. It's
Awesome.
just
Very,
talking in idealistic sense, like across like 1,000 games. You probably don't want to get to late game in many of them.
yeah, makes
But
sense.
yeah,
And
like it's almost always winnable. Yesterday we won like 4v5 Grandmaster Challenger game basically. So
that's
it
good mentality
happens.
right there. Everyone take notes, man. Like no matter how far behind you feel like you're in a game, it's always winnable, right?
It's solo queue, yeah. It very often is, honestly.
You mentioned that you don't really prefer team fights as Vel'Koz, but if you are in a team fight, how do you really approach it? Are you playing pretty far backline?
I mean, like if you're talking about competitive, you will be less picking and you would be team fighting. That's kind of the play. That's where you optimally operate.
Hmm.
But because solo queue is a bit of a different dynamic, you wanna exert as much impact as possible because well, the less impact you exert, the more you decide happens with the game, and more so your teammates. So that's kind of like the thing
Hmm.
where you just try to like climb as fast as possible. So in that case, I'll be like fishing a lot. I'll even send some minions. Like maybe I'll leave a wave if I have a really good hunch that enemies are gonna be passing through one way, and I'll just get like a QR, maybe like full combo. If you kill, maybe you get a free objective. If you not, you get some tempo and they get low, so you can try to like pressure even more and stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, in team fights, if the enemy's playing like heavy front to back too, do you think it's a terrible idea to maybe like burst down a tank? I saw in your guide that you said like, hey, true damage, therefore it's not horrible, but tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, obviously depends on the scenarios and like how well your team does, how well enemy team does. Because some games it's kind of only on you. So if you don't land a perfect combo, you lose. But some games you feel like your team is all right and they can carry their weight and just you can shred the front line, play like AD carry, crush them, and yeah, one kill is one kill. If you're 5v4 in any reasonably high elo game, like that's just instant objective, no matter what.
Yeah, too heavy of an advantage. It's almost like hockey in that respect, right? You're one player
Yeah,
down.
yeah, you just brute force them.
Well, that was pretty easy for kind of gameplay style. Tell me about any special tips or tricks on Vel'Koz that you don't think the average player knows or the average stream enjoyer knows.
Special tips and tricks.
Yeah, what are
I
you
mean, the
doing that
invisible
no one else
queue.
is doing, Azzap? That's what I want to know. What's the secret sauce?
Uh, I mean, I mostly put it in like some compilation of videos, but it's generally just how you operate with your queue. Queue is the thing. You gotta study your queue because a lot of people, like, I mean, there's a first level of people who just don't know you can recast the queue.
Yeah.
But then, like, it goes on, and people like use the queue very in a very basic way. They just spam it off cooldown every time, and they become predictable. They're not changing their patterns up. You got to go a bit left, a bit right, a bit overshoot, a bit undershoot. I very often reference like the blackjack counting strategy. If you don't know, there's a strategy in blackjack, which is how people beat blackjack. Basically, they just count high and low. Like a simple version is like if like a high card comes up, the count goes down. If a low card comes up, the count goes up, and whatever. Like you're trying to just get many low cards out, so it's like your higher chance to win than the dealer. Basically, in Velkoz terms, that's like how many times you overshoot the queue and how many times undershoot. Like let's say if you shoot 3 times over the enemy and every time he's gonna dodge forward towards you, it's kind of guaranteed that you can land the 420 if you precast it.
Right.
It's kind of difficult to just explain it, but if you can see it with the visuals, which I've done some tutorials on that, it's really good. It's such a mind blowing tactic where you can feed false data to the enemies and giving them like, oh, if I just move forward, I'm safe, and then like when you want to kill him, you just switch up the pattern immediately, and then you shoot in a different way.
I'm laughing because Vel'Koz for so many people is geometry, right? But at the end of the day, for you, it's kind of like card counting, it's chess, it's strategy, recognition, right? It's pattern recognition. It seems a lot deeper.
Yeah, it is all of those things to an extent. Yeah, it's a bit of psychology, it's a bit of geometry.
I love it. So a lot of conditioning, it sounds like. Obviously, I'll definitely check out your videos on YouTube as well. I've already watched a ton of them, but to get some more reference on that as well, are there any other kind of like big tips or tricks you would tell a new Vel'Koz player or even a seasoned one that doesn't know?
Don't die. Don't die is just the best tip you can ever get when you want to climb. Literally.
And that's
I
mostly like game recognition at that point, right? It's not even like a Vel'Koz thing because with any control mage, it's so difficult to position yourself properly at
Yeah,
lower
yeah.
elo.
It's just the best teacher in the game is like picking a control mage, because then you have to learn the game the hard way. Everything kills you instantly, so you like don't die is like a very simple thing to say. Hey, just don't die forehead.
Mhm.
And when I tell that to people when I'm coaching them, it's pretty funny. But once they start actually implementing that, like they improve quite a lot, because it's not about the don't die. It's about like what happens for you to not die. Because when you don't want to die, you have to think about how you can die, who can kill you, and how. And then you can like look at the enemy comp, deconstruct it. You're like, okay, they have Darius top lane. We don't care about it. We can kite him forever. Oh, but they have Rakan bot lane. Okay, so that's a threat. They have Rakan ult combo, ult flash, and that's the
Mhm.
way you die. So as long as you know what's the key target that can kill you, that means you have to position in such a way that he can't kill you or he can't get to you. And very often people in solo queue again will get impatient. They won't wait for the perfect engage, so he's going to engage on your teammates rather than you. Then use your teammates as bait and kill. It's just the best way to like put impact in your hands is to basically not die and to understand the game in such a way. Like if you think in those terms, like who can kill you and how, you get the position perfectly. And obviously by not dying, you get more experience, more CS, more money, and you just win more games.
It makes sense. I mean, you can't put out DPS while you're not alive, right? So
Yep.
just practice not
Yeah, yeah,
dying,
yeah.
number one.
Yeah, that's very common. People would build like full glass cannon build, and they're like, okay, but if you build banshees, you actually get to survive the first second, or like with Zonias, so you actually do more damage because you can position more aggressively, and then you can do damage instead of just dying. So
Mhm.
sometimes defense just does more damage.
Yeah, that's another great segue into. I was going to talk about your builds next because you're talking about defensive items, trying not to die a lot. But I see when you play support, at least recently, you don't really build crown ever. Is that by design? Do you
Oh,
hate the
yeah,
item
support
or
never builds it. Yeah.
never?
No,
Okay,
it's just
tell
the
me
principle
more.
how support operates. It's just the principle of the support idea. Because when I started playing support, Vel'Koz, that was season 4, and literally nobody played mage supports at that point. And the norm was go exhaust or ignite, mostly ignite, and I would always go barrier on support. I kind of believe I pioneered to an extent. Don't want to hog all the credit, but I haven't seen it since till season 6. But I've been using it like 2 years prior. So
I'm taking notes right
the
now.
thing is,
Pioneered barrier. Okay, got it.
yeah, yeah, I love barrier. Now, the whole principle is you're playing with 2 damage threats instead of 1. So the lanes before were very boring. Okay, you have an enchanter and you have a DPS. So the
Mhm.
tactic was focus the DPS. That was just a tactic. If DPS gets caught, the fight is over. The thing is here you have 2 damage threats. So whoever gets caught, the other guy can punish. If they engage, like if they engage my Lucian, I'll just combo the AD carry like preemptively, and then like I outtrade him immediately. So it's kind of double threat,
Mhm.
but you also want to play very aggressive because you want enemies to focus you. It's a bit complex here, but you're playing a burst character
Mhm.
while your AD carry plays a consistent damage. So the idea is the best case scenario is you overstep seemingly, baiting enemies onto you as a Velko support because you want to be always at these like razor edge places where enemies think they can kill you, and then as long as you dish out your combo, your AD carry is more likely going to clean them up because, well, they're not killing your consistent damage dealer. And if you dish out your combo, absorb a lot of damage with the barrier and all of that, like he gets a double kill, you die, maybe you don't, and you're just winning.
Right, and it's not that big of a deal if you die after getting your full combo out anyway, right? Because
Exactly.
you're
Yeah,
right.
he
You're
will
the
get
burst.
experience, CS, whatever. It's all good. Do that like 2 times, the lane is broken. And the same principle applies for team fighting. That's why you don't really build too many defensive items to support. You just kickstart a fight, dish out your damage, and if you die, you die. Happens. Obviously, this requires a bit of knowledge because you need to know like what's a winning team fight for you. But if you can kickstart a good team fight, like it's totally worth it.
So tell me, Ludens versus Leandries. Then when do you decide to build what? I assume if there's like 1 or 2 tanky threats on the enemy team, you'll build Leandries. But
It's more so the items that they're gonna build. That's kind of what I look for. Ludens is kind of this is again like Lion Race is more optimized for Vel'Koz right now because Ludens gives you magic penetration. Magic penetration is only 75% efficient on Vel'Koz because you do 25% true damage roughly, right? So like your passive and ult can be true damage, so you're gonna lose a bit of value on that magic pen. So ideally you want to go Lion Race. The thing about solo queue though, you value initial impact more so than the poke because you have higher initial damage, you have more chance of capitalizing on a kill. So you're not going like in competitive. You'd probably see more line race. In solo queue, you probably want to do more Ludens.
gotcha.
The thing is again, like Ludens is magic pen, so you go magic pen build when enemies don't have MR. And how do you know they don't have MR when it's like 5 minutes in the game and you haven't decided what to build? You can look at your comp, look at their comp, figure out what they're most likely to build based on the comps. Like if you're the only AP damage dealer, they won't have MR. Or if they have characters that don't really stack MR build, that's going to ruin their build, you can still do it. Blind Reese conversely use versus tanks or versus healing. If they have a lot of healing, Soraka, Vladimir, you're going to get Lion Reese into Oblivion Orb, and Landry's will extend your healing reduction by extra 4 seconds.
Gotcha. Is it kind of the same mindset that you use when you choose your boots as well? Because I noticed you swap between Sork shoes and Lucidity, depending on what the enemy builds.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just how much projected MR are they gonna have.
Okay. And then the final question on your item build was just going to be, when do you decide to go Shadow Flame and when do you go Horizon Focus?
Oh, that's a crazy one again. Again, it's like calculations on Magic Pen, because the more Magic Pen you have, the more valuable Magic Pen is.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, because enemy on 10% MR or 10 MR is actually pretty high defense, while at 0 is true damage. So you get the value there. So if you can get them to the true damage threshold, you're gonna get Shadow Flame. If you can't, you probably want to go Horizon. And if you're not sure, just go Horizon because it's safe and it's literally the only item in the game that increases your true damage.
I love Horizon so much. I feel like it's really underbuilt at this moment, so it's good to see it
Oh,
on
for sure.
Vel'Koz.
And the vision is just so underrated that it gives.
Oh, for sure. I mean, with Vel'Koz, you're pretty much triggering it on every ability when it's like mid-range, not even
Yep.
max range, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely nuts. So thank you for helping me understand more. Are there any other like items that you'll swap in? And I would assume maybe like Zonya's if you see like a heavy assassin team or like someone who can burst you down 100 to 0. Like, what are your kind of other niches that you fit in?
Yeah, Zonya's is good in those cases. I always prefer. I hate building defensive items though, but sometimes you have to do it. Obviously, if I had to choose, I would prefer Banshees because it doesn't make you stationary for 2.5 seconds, and it's actually used immediately instead of like mid fight. If that makes sense, because
Mhm.
Banshees allows you to position more aggressively because you can tank that one ability. Whereas Zonya's, if you position aggressively, even if you Zonya's, like it doesn't matter, you're just gonna die 2.5 seconds later.
True, true.
So I would prefer that for positioning value, but then again, sometimes you have to get stopwatch, and it's too valuable in higher elo.
Man, I like how in chat someone introvert said stone plate. I don't know. You're on Twitter,
Oh
obviously,
yeah,
and Viger
Stoneplate is
V2. Do
just
you follow
the
Viger
best
V2
item.
on Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay, he is for his mid builds. I know we're talking about support, but for his mid builds, like when he goes Cassiopeia or even Vagar, right? He will build stone plate. Do you think that would ever slot into one of your builds, or is that just an absolute no?
I was doing Stoneplate Vel'Koz back in the day all the time, basically.
Really,
I have
another
a lot of
pioneer.
videos
Got to
on.
write this one down too. Hold
Yeah,
on.
yeah. There was a lot of videos on that, and like some people covered me on that because it was the old glacial build, so you could get like lower cooldown when you pick up the stopwatch. So you could get the thing about old gargoyles was that increases your tankiness quite a lot, but it reduces your damage. Right, that was the idea.
Hmm.
So there was an inherent trade-off on the item. You would pop it, get HP resistances, but you lose damage. The thing about Vel'Koz is if I could do like my initial combo and pop Stone Plate, I could do fully true damage with my ult, so the damage wouldn't get reduced.
Right, completely OP.
And yeah, and I use that all the time. And people like every game they would just spam ping it like, "Oh, gargoyles, what the fuck? You're trolling."
another pioneer. I'm gonna write that down too. As I mentioned, really all the big brain strats coming from Azzap originally, and then spreading through the League of Legends community slowly over time.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we can take a little break here from. We have like 2 or 3 questions left. We're already like almost 30 minutes in. Are you still good for time? I don't want to take up the whole stream.
Oh yeah, no worries.
I like to break it up by doing a little lightning round. So the idea is I'll ask you basically this or that, and then you'll just tell me without any additional thought which one you choose. Obviously, I've worked with other people in the past who have done this with like tempos, and they felt the need to explain themselves. So if you do, go ahead. But I'm gonna list some off. Are you ready?
Okay, we'll try. We'll try. I
All
don't
right.
know what to expect.
So I noticed behind you, you diddle on the guitar every now and then. Would you prefer acoustic or electric guitar?
Electric now.
Electric now. Okay, very good. Old school rap or classic rock?
Fuck.
I knew
Let's
I'd
go old
get you
school
with
rap.
this one.
Let's go old school rap for now. Yeah.
Old school rap. Wow. All right. I
That's
saw
the
you were
only rap
very
worth listening.
influenced.
Good question. Yeah.
I don't know if you have any animals, but cats or dogs?
Cats.
Cats. Okay, could see that. You have gone through some transformations over time. Do you now prefer long hair or short hair?
Now long hair, but
Long hair.
depending on how
Do you
this
like?
challenge goes, we might go back to short hair.
Is the hair
If I
part of the
fail.
challenge right now?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll
what's the
get a
challenge
haircut
for
on
it? How long
stream.
you can get it, or?
The challenge is, well, there's like 10 different things I gave myself to do. I don't know if you can see on my stream like the list: US 1 KLP, Nordic East Challenger, NA Challenger, TFT Dime, Valorant, chess, all that, like a backflip. So all these challenges within 5 months.
Uh-huh.
If I don't do it, there's I owe my chat, I don't know what, 24-hour stream with giveaways, 250 subs, and a haircut on
Uh,
stream. Yeah,
I love that. You're doing pretty good. You're almost halfway done. It looks like. What one's going to be the hardest challenge?
NA Challenger always.
Is it because the ping, or is it because NA is so bad?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind them being bad because like Vel'Koz plays more macro, so I tend to spike up in win rate in actually higher elo than diamond. But NA is just full diamond always,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm playing on low impact, high ping, so it's kind of it gets very frustrating to type to teammates what to do and they never listen. So it's just last year that's the only one I failed basically out of all challenges.
Damn, I thought chess was going to be the hardest, man. Nothing makes me feel more stupid than trying to be good at chess. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, yeah, that one should be. I don't know how to judge it though. I don't know how difficult it will be. So
What are you rated right now? Around 1200?
1100, I believe. I think.
Okay. That's
Just
pretty
started
good.
learning.
I'm sitting over there on my chess account with like 500. So pretty comparable to my league skill, but
Nice.
I'll learn chess first. Maybe I'll go higher in rank after that. League of
Okay.
Legends questions. Would you rather gain LP or gain skill?
Skill always.
Good answer. Good answer. Damage or utility?
Damage.
Vel'Koz. Vel'Koz
Yeah.
for sure. Would you remove Yumi from the game or remove Yone if you had the choice?
Yoni.
Yone? Really? You're the first support player that said Yone. Everyone else has said get Yumi out of the fucking game, man. And then finally,
No,
would you
I'm
rather
down for
support a
Yone.
Kog'Maw or would you rather support a Draven?
Draven.
Is that because you prefer like an aggressive ADC or?
It's just more pliable. It's a bit easier to play the lane. Kog'Maw is just babysit duty for the next like 10 minutes. You know you're never gonna get a kill. It's just boring.
I feel that. And congrats, you made it through the lightning round questions. Wasn't so bad, right? Hardest question was old school rap or classic rock, which I understand.
That was difficult, dude. That was actually difficult because I have
Who's your
nostalgic kind of ties to old school rap. So,
Who's your favorite
yeah.
old school rapper and who's your favorite classic rocker?
Oh my god! Don't ask me that, dude.
I upped the
know.
hardness somehow.
I don't know. I listened to what I listened to a lot when I was a kid. I mean, the classic was just the Eminem Tupac. It was like Grandmaster Flash. It was like Africa Bambaataa, NWA, stuff like that. Exhibit. I don't know. It was just a bunch of stuff.
Let's go.
Most
And then
favorite.
classic
I
rock.
don't even know. I haven't heard it like.
We'll switch gears back in a League of Legends where your mind is for stream 100%. We just talked about builds, so tell me about your runes. I saw on your main account Azzap you were trying out First Strike and kind of like a money generation build where you would go magical footwear and new treasure hunter rune. Is that something that you think is going to be a mainstay or?
It's an interesting idea. I was just primarily testing to see if it's the optimal build. It doesn't seem to be, but there's cases where you can run it. Again, we talked about the babysit lanes. If you're going to be playing with something that doesn't get kills very often, something that can't really punish well, you probably don't want Dark Harvest, obviously. So when you're playing with Vayne, when you're playing with Kog'Maw, you can get First Strike and make a lot of money just poking because they probably won't close out on a kill. So it kind of gets you to the item spikes. It's not bad in those cases. It's just kind of like playing for that earlier mid-game spike. Especially if you're playing versus a bunch of healing, you really want to get the Liandry's plus Oblivion Orb early. So yeah, versus stuff like Soraka, it's really good to get that money generation, and then you get anti-heal fairly early.
Oh man, dude, Soraka, such a pain in the ass. I feel like that's my number one answer to remove as support now is Soraka. So annoying.
Yeah,
so
I think she needs a nerf. The silence is just too broken. It's too much range. It's instantaneous, undodgeable, and if you stay into the roots, it's just very weird ability.
Silence is
to be
like
done.
the forgotten about CC ability. I feel like they don't even release any new champions with silence anymore. So anyone who has it in their kit from way back when, it feels super strong.
Yeah, most of it got removed anyway. Like they just didn't like the mechanic because it was like the old Kassadin, like hitting you for like 2 seconds silence, point and click, and you just don't get to play.
Yeah, I think the only people who it's left on is Soraka and Cho'Gath. Am I forgetting anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, most of it now is just channel interrupts like Blitzcrank, Victor, Kassadin.
Yeah, so silly. So we're testing out the First Strike build still, obviously in more passive lanes, but more commonly you're going pretty much Dark Harvest all the time as support. Am I wrong?
Yeah, mostly.
And the only kind of quirks with that are I wanted to question you on you bring Relentless Hunter most of the time, at least recently.
Uh, yeah, pretty much always is the best thing you can run.
Okay. Tell me just for that roaming capability, because I
E
personally,
even
as a
more
low
than
E,
that, actually.
oh, tell me.
Yeah, because in lane, you're almost always out of combat because you're not farming. So you're
Mhm.
benefiting from that movement speed in dodging the skill shot, repositioning yourself for a better skill shot. So you can even engage or disengage with it.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the only other quirk that I see that I wanted to ask you about, because I ask all our support players, is you bring Ghost Poro as opposed to Zombie Ward. What's your reasoning?
It's kind of the same at that point, honestly. Like most of them do the same thing. Just
Mhm.
Ghost Pour is a bit. It can kind of extend the vision in a certain place. You have a bit more control over it than Zombie Ward. Let's say Zombie Ward is a bit random. It has inherent randomness. Whereas Ghost Pour, you just get extended vision, and you can use that tidbit of knowledge so you can get some picks off.
Consistency, yeah. Before I ever started doing any of these interviews, I would always default to Zombie Ward. But now, after learning more from high elo people such as yourself, I'm bringing Ghost Pour a lot more because it does feel a lot more consistent. So back on runes again. You never build Comet, it seems like, unless you're in the mid lane. Is that correct?
Yeah. Even though Comet would probably be the best in most cases, I think, in bot lane. I just think Dark Harvest is more fun and has more impact, potential impact, I guess, if you really pop off. So
Yeah, I agree. I always prefer to bring Dark Harvest if possible. So having a mold such as yourself do it makes me feel like I'm allowed to. So thank you for that.
yeah, just do it all the time. So it's a neat mini game, makes the lane way more fun.
Absolutely. All right. My last two questions here. Number one is, what are your ADC synergies? I would assume, again, just from my own knowledge, like pokey ADCs like Ezreal or Sivir, but you tell me.
I prefer a CC setup because,
Hmm.
again, if they can stun, you can kill easily. And one of the best are Jin Ash because they can or Ash Verse, they can engage basically on command with ults. And you have Jin, which is just superb, but it kind of depends on the Jin skill a bit more so than the others. So those are
True.
the best. Works with any really mage like Syndra, Zera, Ziggs, all of them work well.
I was going to say a lot of mage supports love having CC champions, so that makes sense. Are there any ADCs that you hate going against in lane or that counter you?
Going against, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't really like Ezreal because he can check brushes all the time with a Q, has a dash. Not too fond of that. Sivir can be annoying, but you can either like she doesn't do too much. Yeah, Samira is very annoying because she will always be paired up with like Pantheon, Nautilus, and you just don't get to play. Yasuo AD carry is pretty horrible if they have hard engage.
Plus all the dashing around that he does makes it harder to hit skill shots, I'm sure.
Not really. Again, you can predict him. The thing is, even if you do, he's got a passive shield, and even if you can get through that, he's just gonna place Windwall in your auto mana, and there you go. You're done.
Yeah. Well, for you, for you, Azzap, yeah, you can predict them, but for me, and then that was a good segue too for counters for supports. Who do you counter hard in the support role? I would assume enchanters, and who counters you hard? I would assume hard engage, but you tell me.
Yeah, versus enchanters is just free game. You want stuff like Janna, Lulu. Those are really good lanes where you're just farming that Dark Harvest so easily. What counters you use? Well, champs that you can't really counterplay. Pike and Rakan absolutely ruin you if they play well. You
Mm.
just don't get to play. So Pike and Rakan are probably the worst because they're gonna crush you. And you can't out roam them because they're both better roamers than you. The third worst would probably be Yumi because you can never get a kill versus Yumi unless she's bad. But then again, Yumi you can out roam. You can have like at the end of the game, you'll always have like twice her vision score, so you'll be dominating the map. Like a river will be yours, and you'll just try to carry elsewhere.
Wow, Yumi's up there, and you still wouldn't delete her over over Yone. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I mean she's got some counterplay.
And then, is there anything that I didn't ask you on the call today that you think is important to know for any new players or someone who might watch the video or is just trying to pick up Vel'Koz?
I don't know, honestly. Don't play League. You didn't ask me should they play League.
Just stop while they're ahead. It's like heroin.
yeah, yeah, you already won. Don't do it, guys.
Okay, awesome. And then obviously, I know that you have a Twitch, you got the Twitter, you have your Instagram for the ladies. Is there anything else that you want me to plug for you in the video or in the description?
I mean, YouTube and Twitch are the big ones, I guess.
I'm sure people will be very excited if they don't already know about you to pop over here. So
Oh, it's pretty cool. I gotta check more of your channel. I saw the NASA's video. I liked it. Like the format for sure. I gotta look more stuff up. Feels good.
feels so good, man. Thank you so much for your time today. A lot of the times I'll reach out to players and they'll just be like, I'll be like, how do you play early game? And they'll just be like, safe. So I appreciate you deep diving with me today.
Nah, the Vel'Koz tends to be complex, and a lot of people are just have questions. So it's just kind of like a way to address a lot of the public questions at the same time. So yeah, we can drive some traffic there to that video because I'm sure people will be curious about a lot of the questions because I think you hit the nail on the head with a lot of questions, which tend to repeat very often in my channel on the daily.
Well, thank you again. I'll be watching the challenge. I'll be watching out for you in my plat games when you're moving up NA Challenger. And I'll hopefully be better at Vel'Koz once this video is out like everybody else. So thank you again, man.
Yeah, hope so. Let's go.
Yeah, have a good rest of your day. Thanks, chat. Thanks, everyone. Peace, boys.
Thanks, BCawk. See ya, man.